reconvene to open session. We didn't take any action in closed session. Attendance roll call. President Lopez Jones, absent. Clerk Rothberg Allen, present. Trustee Maxfield.
Here.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Here.
Trustee Alpashen. Here. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
District mission statement. We are a collaborative, culturally rich, educational community where rigorous and innovative curriculum prepares our students to be successful contributors to our global society. 5, public comment on open session items. Public business from the floor, 9 non-agenda items. This portion of the agenda allows an individual the opportunity to address the board on any item regarding board business that is not on the agenda. Without taking action or entering into a dialogue with the public, board members may briefly respond to statements made or ask clarifying questions about topics posed by the public. Your matter may be referred to administration. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Shocking, no. Recognitions. 6.1, recognition, Trustee Alpashen. The Board of Trustees recognizes students, employees, or members of the community who have received recognition for academic or athletic achievement or who have made significant contributions of any kind to the district. The following individual will be recognized. Trustee Julie Alpashen will be recognized for her outstanding years of service to the Board of Trustees. Yay!
But the last 5 years were definitely the best.
Probably the best year.
And the best. It's been a very fun ride, and I've learned a lot. This group is going to take it and go much higher.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And, you know what, I don't think we could have done it without you running Zoom with You did a great job doing that. I did not like Zoom, but you did a great job.
It was all those virtual orientations I had.
Right before the meeting.
Well, to you guys, want to say thank you for your advice and everything. You made me feel really welcome and helped me out when I first started. Yeah, I wasn't uncomfortable at all, and I just want to say thank you for everything
Julie, I'd also like to say that you really encouraged me to run. I think we met the summer before the first time when I dropped off the senior gift at your house, and you kind of continued to reach out to me, and it was so great, and I wouldn't have done it without your support, so thank you for that.
They put me on the task. That wasn't just me.
I just want to say, as the Director of Business Services, I really, truly appreciate you as a board member and a friend of over 30 years. So I'm going to miss you being here with every one of us.
I'm going to come in, Erin, I'm going to sit in the back. She doesn't know it.
Somehow I think you got
Julie, I want to thank you just for all your support, always being positive. The walks we took together to talk about business when you were president, and thank you for your commitment to kids.
Great influence on me. I have to tell you about the walks, though. The walks were supposed to be discussed in the agenda, and she's going 90 miles an hour. And I'm like, so, so can we just stop for a minute? Oh,
Congratulations.
Oh, it's an honor. Thank you.
There's something missing, though.
That's what
Yeah, there's a signature missing because,
Oh.
Trustee Lopez Jones is ill, so
Oh,
we will have her sign the certificate.
I will find her. Awesome, thank you, thank you. And then you said we probably should add,
Yeah, I was going to say that I'm not set at the beginning, saying we made a change to that.
Oh.
Rookie move.
To all the members of the public, we did make a change to the agenda. And now we're going to recognize Aaron. Okay.
I feel like I should stand up or something.
Like you always do when you address me.
Well, that's gonna change.
The cheating is real loosey-goosey.
So on behalf of the district, district office employees, we can't thank you enough for providing your service to us and being a team for the last 5 years. I'm going to be all discombobulated because I'm going to try and stop not crying. I remember when Erin interviewed me in 2019, and I remember walking out of the office going, oh my God, I'd love to work here because that woman rocks. I mean, she has got it down, she's awesome. And what she makes you want to do as an employee is she makes you want to work really hard. And she makes you want to do the best you can possibly do all the time. And there's not a lot of superintendents like that out there in the world. And so she's got the integrity, she's got the honesty, she's got the trust, and she knows how to build a team. She's built a fantastic district office team, she's built a fantastic district team, and we all feel like we're family. So, and it's because of you, Erin, that we all feel the way we do. So thank you so much for your years of service. Thank you so much for letting me work with you, because I do feel privileged and like it was a very big honor. And we have a plaque to give you as well. But before I do that, maybe the board members would like to say something.
You don't have to, Jack.
So I just would like to say, so I was board president when we brought Aaron on. So I had the honor of working with Scott and going through, all the rest, what we all did. But, it came down to who we were going to choose for our next superintendent. And, bottom line is that this is going to be the person that's going to move us forward, and that's been true. But one thing Scott said to me, I go, well, what do you, think of Aaron? Because he was going through some of the candidates, and he goes, well, she's going to be great, but she's also going to be your friend. How am I going to get through a wedding? But it turned out to be true, because Aaron moved in next door, and Dave moved in next door, and it's been a great friendship professionally and in other ways. So we're you're not getting rid of us, and we're not getting rid of you. So you're going to be around.
I moved, I thought I did.
Yeah, not far enough. Not far enough. So congratulations. We're looking forward to your next chapter. Way to go.
I just want to say thank you for everything you've done for school. I am really happy I just see all the people that you have brought in. And when they asked me to run for the school, I'm like, well, I thought you're doing a great job. You hire all the right people that we can say. And you have a key eye for talent. And you just make everything really, really nice. It's like I've never felt like people in the office and everything. It's just really easy to talk to. And hopefully our other students have big shoes to fill. So thank you for everything.
So 3 of the people that I hired are sitting right here. 4. The only one I take credit for is Jesus.
He came with the
I wish
place.
I could have, but I can't. Somebody else can. And then, Ray, yeah, I guess.
So I'll try to, but I have worked with a lot of leaders, business, hotels, and you are the person who embodied all the most important parts of leadership: integrity, honesty, transparency, excellent communication, team building, and I really knew what we all knew what we had to do when we hired you was really to sort of transform a culture within the district that needed a lot of transformation. And I was so amazed every year at how much you moved the needle in such a short period of time. I've gained a lot professionally from you because she'll tell you I'm cornered better a little bit. And Aaron was always like, Julie, this is how it is. And I just learned so much about how, like she said, wanting to do the best job you possibly can. So. But Sheila's only 4 hours down from me, so. I'm gonna do my best.
Erin, you and I only worked together a short time, but I heard a lot about you from my dad, and your reputation certainly lived up to what he told me, and I really enjoyed working with you the last year, and I'm really excited to see what you do next. So thank you so much for all you've done for the district and the kids.
Yay. There's one more thing. Get a plaque. And I'm going to read the plaque because it has your history on it. A retirement award presented to Aaron Smith Hagberg, Superintendent of CJUSD for 5 years. Lakeport Unified School District Superintendent for 12 years. Lakeport Elementary School Principal for 10 years. Terrace Middle School and Clear Lake High School for 9 years. In appreciation for your 36 years of service as an educator, may you have a long, happy, and fulfilling retirement.
People get their start in the county. Next, we're moving to section 7 presentations. Carla's presentation is being continued to August. So we move to the local control accountability plan survey. Alice.
All right. I'm going to swiftly move through this. I'm going to use those two because I'm just got over COVID, so I'm not straining my voice. All right. I know, who's just not getting over COVID. Okay, so we gave this survey in, April. It seemed like it's extended forever because we really wanted to get as many responses as possible. And the crazy thing is I think we ended up getting more responses than we did last year, that's pretty great. We didn't think we were on the right track, but we were. So this first goes over our goals. I also wanted to let you guys know that I gave you the entirety of the data. And there is like 50 plus slides in here. Yeah, it's a lot. I gave you every question with the breakdown, with the historical behind it. But what I wanted to do today was just call out some slides, some questions that were new, or maybe some slides that have differing data from year to year that kind of stood out. So just some things to consider as we dive in. Remember, I always share by elephant before we look at data. We're all coming at it from different perspectives. The folks who took this survey are all coming from different places. So keep that in mind as we're going through the questions. Our community has spent nearly 3 years experiencing, the results of this pandemic. So it's ongoing, and we know that the impacts are going to happen for years to come. There's a lot of data in here, so just take it piece by piece, do what you can with it, and then you can always come back to it later. The essential piece of our Calistoga culture here is to keep an open mind and remain inquisitive. Instead of jumping to conclusions when we see a certain result, just ask questions. Why are we seeing this? What do we think is going on? So we will go over the participation in the survey, we'll go over the 3 goal areas, some of the questions inside, and then next steps. So we had 607 responses this year, 409 students, 136 parents, 62 staff. We had 42 families with multiple students across the district. 75 Spanish language entries, and then really close between the elementary and the high school participation. Now we're looking at these groups. So for students, this breaks down how many male and female, and then how many, it's really hard to see, with the colors. In gray there's previous years, but in the top, in the green portions, you can see the participation rate of students at CES and secondary. Then we have the parents, and you can see parents that were at both sites, parents that were just at the high school, and then district. Is that what that says?
Did not.
Did not say, they didn't tell us. So, the reason why we have that this year is because we actually, in order to get more survey responses at the elementary level, we sent the survey home on paper. And so some folks who filled out the paper piece did not answer all of the questions in the survey in its entirety. So that's why it says did not state. So I don't know where those folks came from. They might have kids at multiple schools. And then for staff, we have 34 CES staff, 24 secondary staff, and 4 district office staff. So starting with goal 1, the other thing that I like to introduce at the very beginning is how we're going to be looking at the data, and it's the same as it is last year. So the categories of the questions are either strongly agree to strongly disagree, but usually I only show the agree and the strongly agree, so we can kind of conclude that the rest of the graph is the disagree. Then we've got always, often, sometimes, and then what you're not seeing is never. I think never might be the only one that you're not seeing on that one. So I always do it % of responses. So our schools have quality programs that address students' unique needs and abilities. So you can see for this year what students say, what parents say, that's the middle icon there, and then what teachers say. And not a ton of notable changes here. We'll go to the next one. Our school uses MAP too. Sorry, I didn't fill this one out. It was asked a little bit differently of all stakeholders. Like for students, our school uses MAP to so that I can reflect on my own learning and know where I'm at academically. For parents, it said our school uses MAP to help me understand where my students are at. And for teachers, it said our school uses MAP to help me plan academics and supports. So it was worded a little differently. I can fill it in later. I'm sorry that I forgot to do that. That's my COVID break. But this was a new question this year, and we really have, MAP has been more and more integrated into our practice, so I wanted you guys to see kind of our baseline data around how people feel about MAP. So parents are seeing MAP data, which is really exciting. Over 90% parents are seeing MAP data come in. It's only 3 times a year, but hopefully, as we're using it more and more, we'll see it more and more. Kids are saying that they're seeing it and using it to understand where they're at, about 80% of kids, and teachers too. Teachers are just around 90%. So that's really exciting, and we're starting to build our capacity around using MAP to understand where we're at academically. Our school, so this one's new this year because the past couple years we've been saying, hey, should we be providing more supports for kids? And the answer, of course, was yes. So now that we are providing more supports for kids, what do people think? Is it enough? So inside the classroom, that's like groupings and different kind of intervention strategies inside the classroom. And so that is the result for that. Kids are saying, what is that? About 80%, over 80% of kids are saying that they're getting the supports they need in the classroom. Parents are, almost 50% of parents strongly agree that the supports are happening inside the classroom. And then teachers, about almost 90%. So that is exciting. Outside the classroom, tutoring programs, after-school programs, the summer program, our big old summer program. So our schools provide academic supports outside the classroom. Students, just over 70%, parents, almost 90%, and teachers are saying almost 100% of teachers strongly agree with that. So that's pretty cool too. Our schools provide professional development that effectively meets staff needs. And needs are changing every year. At first we had a lot of technology needs with COVID, and now we're kind of going back to that, or refocusing on interventions and support. So it's hard to see what it said last year, but about only 15% said strongly agree, and then 47% agree that we are giving them what they need. We have a really robust fall training plan scheduled, so hopefully we'll start checking off those needs. Staff talked to students about their goals for the future. So this isn't just college or anything like that. It's any goal that they have for the future. So where are we at? So students, 90% said sometimes and more. Parents are at about 90% as well, and then teachers are, well, over 90% they're saying that they talk to kids about their future goals. And please stop me if you have any questions, I know I'm going fast. Obstacles, so we did ask this question last year. I think this is only the second time we've asked it, and we are going to keep it on here. So 82% of the California students said something impacted their learning this year. That's 334 students. Remember, this is only given through grades 4 through 12. So time to study was the biggest one, over half of kids. Other responsibilities outside of school, 49% of kids have other things on their plates. A quiet place to study, access to technology is going down, which is exciting, and then 18% reported no obstacles at all. Here are some comments, and I'll let you guys read those on your own. Let's go into goal 2. Safe learning environment. So this is one of the questions that shows up in the LCAP report more than once. But you can see over time what that looks like. Kind of static for students, down a little bit this year. Students feel accepted and connected, and you do see some shifts this year. It's hard to see what last year's data looks like on the screen right now. I would hope that, with this school year being back in person, that's happening more, and it is taking time to kind of settle back in. And I mean, just anecdotally being in the classrooms, 2 kids wearing masks also create kind of a barrier to that connectedness too. Our schools prioritize SEL. So the SEL curriculum, this one is specific to the SEL curriculum. So Second Step and Wayfinder are the 2 curriculums that we use. This is a brand new question. So students, about 60%, just over, say that they prioritize that SEL curriculum. Parents are a lot higher, about 80%. And teachers between 80 and 90 for the SEL curriculum. Now this one kind of goes hand in hand with our SEL curriculum. This is the restorative circles or listening circles. There's a lot of different tools that each site uses to kind of create that community and have conversations about social emotional learning. And so this was saying that these circles have a positive impact on student behavior. And so about 60% for kids, parents closer to 90%, and teachers about 75% say that they have a positive impact. And to give you a little background too, this is the first year that the secondary had some intense back-to-back training on these listening circles, so they are becoming more and more integrated into the secondary's practice. Our school promotes trust and collegiality among staff, so this is something that we always ask. 18% of staff strongly agreed, and 60% agreed. And it has dropped since last year, so that's why I put this one up here. We saw a big change. Our staff feel, this is a new question this year. We used to just ask it all together. So, do you feel supported by the district office? But now we wanted to say, do you feel supported by these different aspects of the district office? Because we do very different things. So, do you feel supported by the superintendent? And this was just asked to staff. Do you feel supported by HR Ed Services, Business Services, and then the tech team? So, interesting to get that feedback for the first time, all split out. And these are some comments and feedback from different stakeholders. Going on to the last one, our community has received messages from Monica G, our wonderful community liaison. And you can see from parents, I mean, nearly 100% have heard from Monica G, which is so awesome. And then teachers also reach out to Monica G very often and say, hey, I can't get a hold of somebody, I really need help. And so you can see that that teachers are using Monica's support more and more as well. So it'll be interesting to ask this question over time and see what kind of feedback we get. Because that was one of the questions in past surveys, like do we need more support to connect to the school, to the community? Stakeholders in our community use Parent Square. Parent Square is new this year. It's a lot easier than Aries Communication, but we're still climbing up the hill, trying to get everybody on and using this tool. But most parents, over 90%, say that they have used it to communicate with their teachers, which is great. And then teachers are still building their capacity with this tool as well. Folks who want additional training, and over 50% of parents do want additional training, and so hopefully in the future Monica G has big sights on doing some parent outreach and doing some activity nights where they can come in and work on that in the future. And a lot of teachers actually that even commented on this one said, you know, I could do a better job of using Parent Square and learning how to use Parent Square effectively to get in touch with parents. So that's exciting. And some final comments are on this one. These are big long ones. People were really thoughtful in their comments this year on the survey. Lots of detailed comments. So this is a little later in the year that we normally do this. This goes to school site council, so it'll probably go in August when they start meeting back up. Same thing, I'm going to present this data in a more abbreviated version to teachers at back to school. And of course, then I'll go to DLAC, and then you guys are on here, you're the first ones to see it. And then we'll start digging in and looking to see the areas for improvement based on what the results say, like we do every year. And then let it inform us for next year's LCAP. Any questions? You guys are great.
Thank you.
That was fast and furious.
Very informative.
Yeah.
All right, Kate, information and discussion, and consideration of a feasibility of a school improvement bond measure.
As both Maureen and I mentioned at our last school board meeting, the district's going to need additional funding in order to implement the projects that are identified in our master facilities plan. So I invited Greg Isom to come to the board tonight to talk about the benefits of conducting a feasibility study so that we can determine whether or not our community will potentially support another bond election.
Good evening, school board. Greg Isom, excited to be here, see some familiar faces. I just have a quick Aaron story if I can throw one in there.
I'm not sure, Greg.
I've known Aaron
Speak the story.
since 2013. That sounds about right when she was at Lakeport. We did the bond in 2014, right around there. And in my job, I work with so many superintendents and CBO statewide. I mean, probably 250, okay? And not one time have I ever heard a negative comment about Aaron Smith-Hackberg. And you can't say that about other superintendents. Not one negative comment. In fact, people would always come and say, oh, I'm working with Lakeport. Oh, you're going to love working with Aaron. And when we go to sometimes these events, people say, oh, can you put me at the table with Aaron? And then I would say, hey, Aaron, who do you want to sit with? She says, don't put me at the table with these guys. She's fantastic. Okay, so I'm here to talk about bonds, how they work, process, and whatnot. And so just here on page 2, there's a lot of numbers on this page, but this is kind of like how I can say how the sausage is made. Okay. Has anyone ever been involved in a bond here? So how bonds are set up is based off of this chart right here, which is the historical assessed value of the Calistoga Joint Unified School District. In the middle there where it says total value, you can see it says 33424, that's billion. On the right hand side is the percent of change, which shows how much your tax base has either been growing or declining. On the right hand side of the box, or the page in this box, is the history of the district. Shows us in 1995, district voters approved a massive $2.8 million bond, and then in 2010 they did the $42 million bond. You can see strong voter support. You know that November 2010, if you guys recall, that was even during the middle of the recession. That was also when the Tea Party came out and nationally, so that was a very tough election date, and it still got 65% for a $42 million bond. Second bullet point, you still have about $9 million of bonds to sell from that 2010 election. And this third bullet shows what current property owners are paying on the combined tax rate for your bond measures. And right now it's $28.60. Okay? For a unified school district, the maximum you can ask your voters to approve per election is $60. So if you were to just jump over the hills like Windsor Unified, I think their tax rate's like $140 per 100,000. So you guys are very low when it comes to tax rate for your voters. The second bullet point here, this is a term that you'll always hear, I shouldn't say always, but it'll come up once a year as a school board member, especially as a CEO, bonding capacity. Okay? What's the district's bonding capacity? The bonding capacity, how it works, is just a calculation that the state says. You take your assessed value of the $3.4 billion, you multiply it by 2.5%, you subtract out your outstanding principal debt, which is approximately $32 million, or 33, which gives you your debt limit of $52.9 million. So this tells us that your school district can go into debt for another $53 million today. Okay? You don't necessarily need $53 million, but this is just a calculation that says what can you put your community into debt up to. And every single year, this number, 52.9 million, should actually grow. Because either one, you're paying off old principal debt from your previous bonds, and two, each year that your tax base goes up, this number just goes higher. Okay? So we're nowhere near that. But as I said, this is just the history of the district, your tax base, and bonding capacity. Okay? Questions so far? Pretty straightforward. Page 3 is, if your district wanted to do a bond, what is a conservative-looking bond program that would go before the voters? You can see I have different tax rates of 30, 50, 60. You can see where it says Series A 2023, Series B 2025, Series C 2028. So if you recall from your 2010 elections, 42 million, you can't access all those bonds. You're selling them in different chunks because you got to wait for your tax base to grow, and you got to wait for a good interest rate environment and whatnot. And so this has you selling bonds pretty much every 2 to 3 years, and at a $30 tax rate, that generates $30 million. The $6 tax rate generates $65.5 million. Correct me if I'm wrong, Maureen, but I don't think you have $65 million in needs for the district.
I think not.
I think you're right around that $30 million number, maybe a little bit lower.
Yeah.
Okay, so to finalize your facilities master plan, you're looking at roughly this $30 tax rate, which is half what a typical unified school district asks its voters to approve. Okay? When I talk about conservative, because you never want to get stuck in your bond program if there's like a recession, maybe that's something that's going to happen. But we're using 3.5% assessed valuation growth rate. The previous page, and that's long term, so that's spread out over a 30-year period, 3.5%. You go to the previous page where I had the last 17 years, you guys have been averaging 6.82%. And so I feel like this bond program, using 3.5%, 30-year bond term, all current interest bonds, no capital appreciation bonds, it's a pretty conservative way to get to your $30 million number. Okay? What happens if you exceed 3.5% growth? So if we, in our assumptions, use 3.5%, let's say you grow at 5%, what happens? that means that your tax rate actually goes down, because the tax collector doesn't even generate as much revenue that's being generated from the tax rate. Does that make sense? If not, I can go over it. We're good? All right. So, 3.5%, conservative, $30 million. If we go to voter demographics on page 5, there is a typo on this page. It says voter demographics are conservative. You do not have conservative voter demographics. As a carryover. Or it's supposed to say not conservative. But, so you have about 3,800 registered voters. 54% of your voters are registered as Democrat. Pretty much everybody votes by mail now. It's a very small percentage of people who actually show up and vote at the polls. Most people will take their absentee ballot or drop it off. But there's still some people that want to go get that live in-person sticker. You have generally an older voting population. These are the voters that don't necessarily have kids in school anymore, but maybe they have grandkids in school. But as I said, when it comes to school bonds and when it comes to demographics, these are considered great demographics when it comes to asking voters for tax measures. As opposed to, the demographics would be flip-flopped if you're in Shasta County or Siskiyou County, where it's 55% Republican, it's like 90% senior citizens. That's a tougher sell when asking your voters to approve something. Okay? On the next page, on page 6, is voter turnout. This is important because each election date brings out different voters. All right, so I think this California primary 2 weeks ago was one of the lowest turnouts in the history of primaries. Why? What was there to vote on? Nobody really cared. And so when that happens, who generally shows up to vote? An extremely low voter turnout. Yes.
Elderly.
More mature voters. That's what we call them. A more conservative, more mature voter shows up in low turnout elections. Okay? High turnout elections is where you're going to get, all these 18 to 44-year-olds. You're going to get your parents that are going to come out to vote. You're really going to show up for June primaries. There may be a little bit of excitement nationally this November, similar to November of 18. This is where there's generally a bunch of propositions that the state throws out. So you'll have a younger crowd coming out in a November election as opposed to June election. You have a little bit more liberal crowd coming out in November as opposed to June. That's why the state of California, for the most part, never throws propositions up on June primaries or even March primaries because they typically don't succeed. Okay? So our expectation, November 2022, maybe 65%. Especially if it's a local issue, and if you guys are going to consider doing a bond, that could get some people to come out that normally wouldn't. State propositions will get some people to come out. National politics will get some people to come out, way more so than in June. Okay?
Supervisor Lennox also.
That's a hot race. So next steps. So if the district were interested in doing a bond this year, this November, these are kind of the steps that need to take place. This is a condensed timeline. Everything needs to be turned into the county in 88 days. So you're going to say, well, man, can this all be done? I'm going to walk you through the steps. First one, prepare, revise facility needs analysis. I think that's done, isn't it? Okay. If it wasn't, then I was getting my problems. So that one's done. That one normally takes the longest amount of time. Okay, so most school districts that are doing this, sometimes they don't even have a list compiled yet. I'm working with districts right now who say, I have a list on the back of the napkin. Does that count? I say, yeah, you can do it. It's not recommended. But that could work. But the fact that you guys actually have a master plan showing how it's going to work in the future is fantastic. Bullet point number 2 or line number 2, board needs to approve exploring the feasibility of a bond. The reason I say exploring is because that's all that you're really doing right now. Right? You're not committing to doing a bond. There's no resolution in front of you to say we're approving a bond. All you're doing is trying to figure out, is this something that might work? Okay? So, bold that, capitalize it, exploring. I believe that's what's on the docket for today. So what does exploring actually mean? It's speaking to some, key stakeholders. I'm sure there's 5 to 10 people who probably need their opinion to be asked and say, hey, what do you guys think about this? Is this something we could get behind if we were to, move forward? And then you can see conduct survey. The survey to me is representative of the average community member in town, right? And so since you don't know all, 3,000 voters that live here, the reason you do the survey is, can you get maybe 100 to 200 people who you have no idea who these people are, but they're going to give their opinion on whether the survey or whether a bond will work. And in this survey, you ask some questions about certain facility improvements. There's generally a pretty general and broad survey that's asking, would you go in support of one if you just to modernize classrooms? What does that mean? It doesn't matter what that means. It's what does that mean to that voter when they answer that question? Because that's generally when people talk about bonds, that's how it's phrased to them. So you ask about 4 or 5 facility questions. You ask tax rate questions, even though you don't need to ask for $60. It's important to, in my opinion, to ask for 60 to truly find out what is the tax tolerance level of your community, right? Because if it's like, oh, no way to 60, no way to 50, and 30 is kind of subpar, well, you know that you're going to run into some issues if you talk about tax rate. If your community says 100% $60, the tax rate's not that big of an issue, and you don't even need to bring it up because you're only asking for potentially $30. Okay. So you ask just a general bond question, and then at the end of the survey, we ask the question again. Once we give them all the information, we say, well, now that you've heard information about the projects and cost, would you vote yes, or would you vote no? Or you're undecided, or are you leaning yes, or are you leaning no? And so we call for a district this size, you can't get like a true scientific 400 people that match demographics, who's going to show up in a November election. For a district this size, we just call as many people as we can. And then I take the information on the Excel file and I pretty much strip out all your high propensity voters to determine who is really going to support this thing. Because if you call a bunch of people, odds are somebody who's never voted before is not going to take a survey. And so you're probably going to get only high propensity voters anyways, but it's also good just to gather that information. In case there's some anomaly of somehow all your 18-year-olds decided to take the survey, right? It's not going to happen, but just give that example. So we present the survey results to the board. It'll take about 3.5 days to actually do the survey. They just call nonstop and just keep going through the list. So if somebody doesn't answer it on a Tuesday, they're going to get called on a Wednesday. So I always warn board members, say, hey, just FYI, survey started. You may get a call from a community member saying, why am I getting a call by someone saying they're calling on behalf of the school district? Well, this is why, because you guys are exploring whether or not a bond might work in your community. Okay? Based off of the survey results, we finalize the plan, which we say, hey, great news, $30 is going to work, $39 is the sweet spot, and they love your projects, and they love everything about it, it's full speed ahead. Or, I had to present survey results last week to the district where I said, bad news, guys, your community's not ready. So let's pull the plug right now, let's focus on 2024. Okay? Prepare a resolution, it's got to be approved at some point before 88 days before election day, and then it gets submitted to the county. If everything looks super sharp, if you're 65% or above on a survey when it comes to, what type of campaign do you need to run? If you're 65% or above, you don't really need to run a campaign at all. The only time you ever need to really run a campaign is, if you're really trying to get this thing past the finish line. But if you're really having to force this thing past the finish line, maybe you guys don't want to do a bond in the first place. But as I said, the survey is going to kind of give us that information on how close you are and how much effort really needs to go into this. Questions?
So, yeah, so the $30 per, additional for 100,000, that's on top of the 28 they're already paying.
Correct.
So it's going to double for the school.
Correct.
How does that translate financially to the people in our community? Like, it's people who are right now.
And any property owners.
It's gonna,
Anyone has a property tax bill, but even then, even doubling it, going from 28 to 60, for a unified school district is still very small. As I said, most school districts have maxed out $60 tax, because you get to do a new tax with each election. And so we have districts in the Bay Area that are, $200, $300. Parcel taxes on top of it. So my opinion, I wouldn't say expert, my opinion, as I said, is I think your survey is going to be pretty favorable.
Well, it's just that, we made, we did the first bond, promised to the voters we would go over a certain price.
Mhm.
But now we're going back to them, but it's for something different.
Correct.
So, that's my only concern.
Yeah, and here's, I will always tell the district, expect 5 calls when you do a voter opinion survey. Because if you're gonna take a survey, one, that generally means you have like a landline, or you're willing to just accept a random cell phone call from some number. Most people aren't gonna take that one unless they're generally engaged and they're curious to know what's going on, okay? If there are any issues with 2010, was the tax rate extension, the superintendent will hear about it. So I always say, expect 5 calls. One, I couldn't understand what the person was saying. You're gonna get that one. The person spoke too fast. The person called during Matlock. You'll get that one.
Well, these kids don't know what that means.
I got the reaction I wanted to the Matlock joke.
Yeah.
They'll say, oh, they called multiple times. Well, yeah, we told them to. Or they called, too late. We tell them to pretty much end before 9 o'clock, but some people don't like to call the 8 o'clock. That's the time when you're gonna be home. If you get other random calls, that's sometimes a reason for concern. And so, as I said, when the survey is going on, I always tell the admin, say, hey, let me know if anything's weird's going on. Or if somebody shows up at the board meeting, you got people with, pitchforks or upset, that's a good sign as well that you have problems. If nobody shows up to a board meeting, nobody calls the district, 95 times out of 100, you're going to be perfectly fine.
What are the odds about the bonds passing like during like a recession?
It's straight, it's odd. When it comes to school bonds, I gave this example. In 2008, Stockton Unified did a bond, and the week before, Stockton Unified the city of Stockton was on 60 Minutes for being the foreclosure capital of the country. A week before election day. I remember we're like, oh, like worst press you could have got. And it still passed at 64%. So I look at 2008, I remember in 2008 we did, 24 out of 27 successful bonds. That was when, the economy collapsed, already kind of in the housing bubble. November 2010, you guys already passed the 65%. And you take a look at COVID in November 2020, we passed 80% of our bonds in November 2020. You take a look at what just happened last week. I went 7% last week on bonds ranging from Boron, California, again, where Boron is.
There's nothing there.
20 Mule Team Road, San Mateo County, the parcel tax of Kentwood, I think passed at 79%. So voters, when it comes to something local, view it a lot differently than they do with like some statewide tax, especially if it's something that they believe in and something that they like. It's interesting even seeing those results on how staff felt about the superintendent. And that's all positive information. Just for me, I was looking at it, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool to have. If those results came in at 50% or they don't like you, well, that's sometimes a reason to be concerned as well. So if your community likes you and they see a need or they want a need, bonds are almost recession proof. If they trust you and they see a need.
What's that?
Other bonds.
Oh, you're asking about the city? So that's a good question. We all know, I think, in the community that the city is considering purchasing the fairgrounds. And if you've been watching their agendas, that they are having closed sessions every meeting to continue negotiating. So as of a week ago, when I met with the city manager, they had not yet settled on the price. However, I did ask whether or not she would support adding a question to our survey to find out whether or not our community members would support city financing as well. So she talked to me, talked to Greg, and he said that has been done in the past. He's got experience with that. So it kind of helped them as well. It'll be up to them to decide how to phrase that particular question, working the phrase.
But that wouldn't be this November, would it?
They're not sure yet what they're going to do for financing, so that there's been nothing public about the financing right now. I just know
Sure.
they're in negotiations right now with the county.
So that's something that, if we're not on to do a survey, we could throw that on there too.
Yeah, we've done it before, when we knew there was gonna be competing tax measures. And so we actually did one in Shasta County for an elementary school district, we knew that a fire tax was gonna be on top of the same voters. So we said, on top of this, the fire protection district is looking to do a measure. If both measures were on the ballot at the same time, would you vote yes on both? Neither, or, just the school or just the fire tax? So we can ask that as well.
Yeah, but we just don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. I mean, it's reasonable to assume they're going to need some kind of extra support, right? I mean,
yeah.
They're probably in the same position that we are, that we want to do, facilities improvements, or you want to purchase something, and you need to have some kind of extra support from the community.
What happens if it doesn't pass? How does that impact what we're doing? It's what, if we do the bond measure and we don't get the $30 million.
Don't get $30 million.
Right, no, I know, but I mean, we've talked about a lot of projects.
Yeah.
We just,
We would have
we
to-
could finish what we're.
We would have to reprioritize our budget.
It should be told, if you were happen to be unsuccessful, what's the worst thing that happens is you don't get the money right now and you have to look forward to 2024. But once again, if you do the survey, and the survey comes back positive, your voters like you, they see a need, as I said, it's 95% chance of passing. The only way that you would not be successful is if there was some global pandemic. I mean, that would never happen. Like a second, something weird way where all the schools got closed down again. But even then, in March 2020, when this happened, we were successful with the bond in Ukiah, successful with the bond in Fort Bragg, 4 districts in Sonoma County. So even with that, they were still successful. So I like your odds without even doing the survey. To me, the survey is what makes people feel warm and fuzzy to give you a reason to proceed. So say, wait a second, you guys are doing another bond? Well, yeah, we did a community survey. We're just following the data. We're just following, what the voters asked us to do. So when people say, well, why are you doing a bond? All we're doing is you're giving the opportunity for the voters to vote on something that they told you to do in the survey.
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you.
And 8.2, California School Dashboard Local Indicators Report.
So as you know, each year, school districts must report their performance on local indicators. And those, we do that through the California School Dashboard. Other indicators, that data is gathered through like the CAS data. But this is basically a self-evaluation of how we feel that we're meeting these particular local indicators. So the administrative team looks at data from our LCAP survey, and we get together and rate ourselves on these performance standards. And then once those are presented to the board, they're in the board packet. If we go back in and we submit those to the dashboard, and if we've completed everything we said we were going to do, then we automatically are assigned a MET indicator. If we do not complete everything we were supposed to do, then we've not met. And the history of this district is we've been met every year because we've completed what we said we would complete. And I do not anticipate anything differently for this year. So questions about the process, or so the indicators are in the packet? All right. So you don't need, this is not an action item, I just have to simply present them to the board.
All right, 8.3, resignation letter from trustee Alcashen. You resigned? For real? Backsies? Okay. All right, noted.
I have to tell everybody that I do a lot better behind the camera and posting it on Facebook. So, I think it's been 3 school years that I've been here. This is my 3rd school year. And this is my first presentation to everyone here. So I just wanted to point out that little Wildcat. Ashley, our kitchen lead at the elementary, drew that out for Autism Awareness Month and in April. And the goal behind that was to use that for the staff at the elementary, but it didn't go through, so I just wanted to share it, and hopefully next year it does go through with the ordering. Okay, so let's start with our free and reduced lunch counts. So I put our enrollments on the left side. We have our enrollment, and then on the right side we have our free and reduced meal participation counts. And you can see that even though our enrollment has kind of dropped, our free and reduced counts have come up. And I think a couple of reasons for that is because the pandemic, the impact of the pandemic, I think some families lost their jobs, and then they were, they filled out the alternate income form that populates them to be free and reduced category. And then also I think, because I make phone calls to families, if they don't have a form in, so I think just engaging more with our families have kind of increased our free and reduced population. So our daily average participation, I didn't track the past years because last year was our virtual year. And so this year roughly we serve around breakfast for elementary at our Calistoga Elementary School. We serve around 80, and then I can't really see for the other one, but I think it's like around 320 meals at lunch.
311.
311? Oh, okay. And then our high school, we have a higher participation at breakfast than we do for lunch. So for breakfast, I want to say it's like probably 220? 255. 255? Okay. And then for lunch, is it like 140? 190. 190? Okay. And it's because we have an open campus where they leave. And honestly, what I did when I first started working here is I kind of followed the kids and I saw what they were getting, and I kind of added some of the items into our menus, because not everybody has that opportunity to be able to afford to be outside. So I kind of do a little bit of spying on our high school.
Did it work?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. Our participation has gone up. I know our pizza days are very popular, and anytime we have, I know it's kind of sad to say, but I balance that with salads. And then we have like chicken strips and corn dogs, and the participation kind of does go up because it's free here. Like, all our meals are free. So this is just a quick timeline of what has happened in the past couple of years. So if we go back to when the pandemic first started, March 17, 2020, we had the lockdown, we had our food service audit, and then I also had a procurement audit, which I refused to do, to postpone. I did them all virtually during the pandemic. So I was on site supporting staff who handed out meals to our families, and then I was doing a virtual audit of our food service program. And then, so right after closing our schools, we immediately started, I think we closed on like on a Thursday, and then on that following Monday, we started coming up with ways to hand out food to our families. We started at the elementary because I really liked the drive-thru, and then as we moved to the 5-day meal kit distribution, just because as a parent and just seeing the community, I thought it would be easier to pick up meals once a week. And our participation, I felt like it was easier for the families, and our participation went up with offering the pick-up meals and then the meal site distributions that we had all around town. And then we switched it over to the high school because we needed more space to accommodate for all the meals that we were serving. So 2022 school year, that's this current school year. So we had a waiver where it allowed all meals, all students having free breakfast and lunch. And today we're almost normal. We're ready for school meals. Today was our first day of summer school. And next year we're going to be moving to universal meals. So basically what that is that before it used to be that any needy student was allowed one meal per school day. And now they've eliminated needy. And now it's every student that attends our schools are entitled or to to get them a free breakfast and lunch. So, and then the guidance that has been happening because it is newer, and I've been attending the town hall meetings from the Sacramento office, and the guidance that they gave us was that to try to apply for a provision if your school qualifies for that. So I just submitted my paperwork, and I'm still waiting to hear if we qualify for CEP for all of our schools. Because before the pandemic started, our elementary school was a community eligibility school, and so is our Palisades, but not the high school. And now I was able to apply all of our schools, so I'm just waiting for the approval. It was due June 30th, so I just turned it in this past Thursday, so I'm just waiting for the approval process, so hopefully it'll come in just to help offset the cost, because now all of our students will be, regardless of eligibility, if they're free or reduced, they will be getting a free meal at both breakfast and lunch.
So how do you plan for that? Because obviously not everybody takes advantage of it even though it's free, correct? So how do you?
Yes, so I think this year with us serving free food to all school year long, I think we kind of have an idea on how to plan for that. But honestly, what I've noticed just working in food service is that every school year we have trends. Like, there's certain groups that eat more than others that are sold on our food school lunch. So I'll notice that like when they are at the elementary, like our 6th grade class will have a higher participation than our 5th grade class. So then when the 6th grade class trickles over to our 7th grade, then the staff here will be surprised, like, oh my God, there's a lot of students eating, and I'll be like, oh, it's the 6th grade class, like they really like our food. So I want to say we have a general idea, but I'm not.
Right.
I'm not. It kind of changes every year.
Sure.
So we try. So for the most part, like as far as prep goes, we do an estimated number of meals, and then we do 10 extra. And then we'll just guide it from there. Obviously, like your pizza days will be more popular, so that's like an extra 20 or 30, because if they come through our line, we do not say no to any of our students. And I have to say that anytime they come in and they're hungry, which we do have that on occasion, a student will come in and they'll wander, and then you'll ask like, hey, can I help you? I want breakfast, so then we'll just give them whatever we have available. So we're known to do that to any of our students.
Good.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll have a handle on it next year. But the universal meals is new, so as far as like funding, they've been promised, but I don't know, Maureen's a little nervous. or sometimes it changes, because they'll tell you that they've set funding aside for it, and then it will change because all of a sudden all the schools in California, all the students, more participation came. So hopefully this year kind of gave them a guideline as a base on how much to prepare for the universal meals coming next school year. And I haven't been following other states, but because I only followed California. California was the first state to approve it, but then I heard on the news that some other states slowly have been approving the universal meal mandate in their home state as well. So this is just a quick little snippet of our virtual meal. We had it here, and one of the times we had our power went out, and I think we were evacuated. It's all kind of a blur. It's pandemic and evacuation, it all kind of means the same thing. But we were out with power at our high school and our elementary, and we had to get a bin and we had to throw out all our food, and it was nice because we had a fresh start, but then it was also terrifying because there was a lot of food waste that had to go. So that's just a little, I like to record the good and the bad sometimes. So what's new in our department is that, I'll talk about the Blue Zone certification. So there's talk in our community about becoming a Blue Zone certified school, and I did the preliminary point system for that, and we do qualify. I just haven't turned in my certification yet. So that's one of my goals that I will have for next school year, is I'll make sure that I turn in all the pictures and all the signage that they're asking me to get. I've already started it, but I didn't complete it because I didn't feel it was a priority. And then, so for the first time ever in food services, we are getting extra funding for kitchen infrastructure and training for food service staff members. And I had a meeting with them and we talked about all the good things that we want to get. So I think we're getting an ice machine over at the elementary. We're getting we're replacing our milk cooler that doesn't work here. We're going to use some of those funds to hopefully get a new refrigerator and freezer unit for when the remodel happens over at the elementary site. I'm going to be purchasing steamers, just items that help speed scratch our cookings at both of our sites. And then as far as for staff training, they selected to do like some baking classes. They selected, they would like to learn how to become better bakers, and I agree. And then also we talked about how to hide our vegetables in our foods that we're currently making. And then we also talked about taking a class or talking, just having a conversation or training about all the differently culturally diverse foods and how we can incorporate that into our school districts. So it was a great meeting, and we're still working on the buying. I was waiting for the July 1st date so I can start purchasing all this cool stuff. So for the first time ever here at our high school, we had our Small Water Day, and we had 2 different waters. We had a watermelon, strawberry, and I think we had an orange, it was a cucumber lime and then a apple cinnamon, and then they had a little, we used Post-its to color code if they liked or if they disliked it, and I was pretty impressed at our participation. Like they really wanted to try our water. We also hosted our first food sampling day here, and we had a mango habanero chicken, and then we had our rainbow coleslaw, and then we used marbles to say if they disliked and did not like it, and then we had a signage, and that also went over pretty well. Though I noticed that there was trends, so one student said they liked it, but they all kind of said they liked it, so I'm not sure how accurate that was. And then the pandemic gave us the opportunity to do some baking fun. Ashley, our lead cook at the elementary, has had experience, has taken a few baking classes, so we got to experiment with making semas and rolls, so that's just a little bit. And it wouldn't be the food service department without sharing our mistakes. We actually spilled and it's because she works too fast, and I've been guilty of this as well. So blueberries, and then that little tower thing in the freezer that's actually whole wheat pizza dough, and that was mine. That was my mess. It just kept on growing, and I thought if I froze it, it would stop, and it froze over. So that was our little surprise in the morning, and it was really fun, kind of just chipping.
It's alive.
Yeah. So that was, we need to modify that recipe for that one. We've had we've recognized 2 classified employee of the years in our district, but most importantly Napa County. So Olga Pimentel was during the 2021, because I feel like they kind of skipped a year, and then Ashley was from our this current school year. We also celebrated National School Breakfast Week over at our elementary site, and Ashley did a couple of tricks in her skates. She's a roller derby girl, so she's really good with her skates. We also put movies on in the morning, and then we got signage for just our menu entrees in general, and that is Ashley's artwork. She's really good artistically. So how our LCAP goals relates to our food service departments. For LCAP goal number 1, we understand the importance of feeding our Wildcat students, and we make sure that we serve healthy, conscious food choices and offer brain-fueled foods in our salad bars and just overall in our department. We treat our students how it relates to our LCAP goal number 2 is we treat our students as if they were our customers, and we try to provide us a positive cafeteria experience while meeting our guidelines. And for number 3, our parent engagement. So we send our flyers and menus through Parent Square, and Facebook has become a platform for other information such as our pandemic EBT benefits. I remember when I first did my first pandemic EBT benefit video, I kind of knew that that was a way to communicate with our families. And then I second guessed myself. I recorded it and then I second guessed myself and then I'm like, I'm just gonna post it. And then it kind of blew up everywhere. And I actually got messages from other school districts because it was shared so many times. And I was only expecting like 200 views. Like I wasn't expecting, I think the first one was like 5,000, I don't know, or 4,000, I'm not sure, over 1,000 views. I stopped looking at that after because I was nervous because I was on camera and it was, but then I liked it, and so that's why I say I'm much better behind the camera.
Well, that's very flattering.
Yes, I have a lot of fun doing those, but I still get shy sometimes. So our wellness committees have been successful. We completed our first triennial assessment report completed. I will be sharing that with you in future meetings. And then we also did our first Wednesday family movement class, Miércoles de Movimiento. And I don't think we picked the best time frame for it because it ran with baseball, and baseball is very popular in our community. So we're going to think of different ways on how to incorporate that back into here. So this is some of the things that our students are saying, and they always have the cute things to say, like, thank you for giving us snacks for testing. I really enjoyed the chicken strips. So they're talking about two different things, but this is what we get all the time. During Lunch Hero Day, they made beautiful notes. So the CES staff was showered with notes from the students all day, and it was really nice to see that happening. Everyone was really thrilled and excited. So every year I try to set up some goals for the department. So some of the goals that I have for our department are I'm really pushing for school gardens. I hope that someday we can bring that to fruition. There's a grant that we're thinking about applying, but again, it's a grant and sometimes we don't get funding. I would like to increase our scratch cooking in our kitchens and gravitate towards eco-friendly kitchens. Basically, just getting away from plastic containers and anything that's single use and reusing our items just to become more conscious of our earth. So those are, there's only 3 goals and they look very small, but they actually have a little more to them than what it just says. So hopefully in a couple of years, we'll have different goals set up. So thank you so much, and this is it. Does anybody have any questions?
But I just want to say on my exit, you have made such a huge difference, and you've done so many things that I had hoped for, and now I see even more, so you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you. Am I allowed to say the other part of?
You are now.
Like I'm going to stop her from saying something.
Well, I've expressed interest in the culinary arts position, so I'm hoping that taking that on will kind of mesh the programs together as the sole person, and I have a lot of ideas and a lot of creativity of what I can do with that 7th period, and so I'm hoping that once I'm in that role, I can just improve both sides of the food world in our school district.
Thank you, Rosa, and I want to just commend Rosa and her staff. They have a great team, they have a lot of fun, and they work really hard. So thank you for showing us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And next we turn to the Director of Business Services.
I do not. I don't have a report for you tonight. It's been a busy week.
All right.
Moving right along.
Know that.
Superintendent.
Yeah.
So given trustee Elkishin's resignation, the board is going to have the option of either appointing or holding a special election. But I'm going to leave that up to Dr. Pittman to inform the board about your options at the August meeting. So I'm going to just do that for now until August. And as I'm not reporting on the LCAP list tonight.
Aww.
As I was preparing for my very last school board meeting, it occurred to me that I've been attending school board meetings for 32 years. I became an assistant principal 30 years ago. And out of curiosity, I thought, I wonder how many board meetings that is, for all those years. And I have attended just over 500 board meetings. So I'm not going to have to attend any more board meetings that much.
You're gonna miss it.
So given that this is my very, very last school board meeting, I want to publicly thank the board just for giving me the opportunity to serve our amazing students, our dedicated staff, and our truly wonderful community. I don't think I could have ended my career in a better district working for a better board. So thank you.
Very well.
We have guests in the room. I just saw
I heard.
a little baby guest come in.
I made him leave because it was, your last report. Tainted with a
She didn't approve, obviously, if she had to leave the room.
No, she was cheering, she was cheering.
Oh, good one, good one.
That's all I have.
All right, the consent agenda. Actions proposed for the consent agenda are deemed routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless any member of the board, the audience, or staff request a specific items be removed from the consent agenda for separate action. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A roll call vote, President Lopez Jones, on here. Clerk Ralph Allen. Aye. Trustee Maxfield.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Aye.
Trustee Alpert. Action item protocol. Protocol for action items includes a staff presentation, questions from the board, public input, deliberation by the board, and voting by the board. During public input, there will be a 3-minute time limit per person. Agreement with ISOM advisors.
Okay,
This is an agreement with ISOM advisors to conduct the survey and also sets in motion, if the board decides to proceed with the bond election, the agreement with ISOM to be the consultant for that as well. There isn't a cost to that, it's contingent on the bond. So we will be paying for the survey, and then anything from the bond will be contingent on how the bond passes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
11.3 Local Control Accountability Plan.
So there are actually 3 documents that you're approving tonight, this one action. These 3 documents were presented to you at the public hearing last week, and there have been no changes to the documents.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
11.4. Oh, roll call vote. Lopez Jones. Sorry, President Lopez Jones. Clerk Rothberg Allen. Aye. Trustee Maxfield.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Aye.
Trustee Alpert. 11.4 Adoption of the 2021-2022 budget.
Same as the LCAP, there have been no changes since the presentation last week, so staff recommends approval as presented.
Second.
Roll call vote. President Lopez Jones. Clerk Rothberg Allen. Aye. Trustee Maxfield.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Aye.
Trustee Alpert. 11.5 Early Learning Opportunity Program. ELOP.
So I have to give credit, Michael actually wrote the proposed plan, so I appreciate all his work on it. He's not here tonight. So basically, this just says that all districts are required to provide a 9-hour instructional day to receive the ELOP funding. We're fortunate that we can partner with our state preschool, the Hearts and Hands Preschool, and Boys and Girls Club to provide those services, which is more fortunate than other districts who are struggling to find that. So we anticipate that the state preschool staff is going to provide the services actually within the TK classroom. Our students can go to Hearts and Hands, who are a part of that program already, or entering the program, and then the Boys and Girls Club also would be providing services on site at the club. Any questions?
UPK plan?
So we utilize the Community Schools Initiative as our, or it's actually the Early Morning Learning Work Group, as our partners to create our UTK plan. And so Valley Family Center, State Preschool, Hearts and Hands, they were all involved in the decisions to plan the program. This is a template that we're using. All districts in the state are required to submit that template. The difference between our district and many other districts in the state of California is they are not providing additional funding to basic aid districts. Even though we're required to now implement universal TK, we're not going to get any extra dollars for it. The only money that we could possibly acquire would be for facilities. And we're not yet sure whether we're going to need facilities. So it's a big difference for us because typically we do receive funding for this year. We are not receiving for that year. Questions about UTK?
You gotta do it.
Yeah.
We have to do it.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
11.7, Form J13A.
This is a form we have to file with the state because we had to close school on May 27th for our technology issues, which then did not provide phones in the classroom, so it was a safety issue for our teachers and our students, which is why we did close school. So now we have to apply to the state for a waiver, so we can waive that day for the 180 instructional days we are supposed to do through EdCode. So if the board approves this tonight, we will send it on to CDE and hopefully they will approve that day for us.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
11.8, GASB 7475 Valuation Report.
Some of you are probably familiar with this. This is our OPEB liability report. We do have a negative OPEB. OPEB means other post-employment benefits, and so that means some of our employees, when they do retire within their union contracts, are entitled to certain benefits. And we have saved for that, and we are actually, based on the liability of our staff that could take that post-employment benefit, we have that fully funded and then some. So that's a really good thing. There's not many districts in the state of California that can say that. So be proud as a board that we have set up that way. But the total OPEB liability, which represents the district, owes due to its promise, which is the union contract, to provide future health benefits, increased by about $200,000 from last year. But our investment also increased by about $200,000, so we're still sitting about roughly over $600,000 overfunded for this program. We do this report every 2 years, and then every year we kind of just do a little snippet. So we're kind of sitting right where we were the last time we did this report, with about a $200,000 increase on both sides of the investment and the liability.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
11.9, revised 2022-2023 salary schedules.
You have a couple of salary schedules that you've probably already seen, but we are doing something new starting July 1st. Certificated management is going to be getting a bilingual stipend, just like our certificated teaching staff does, so that's a change on that schedule. Co-curricular, because of the 5.25% increase, that increase actually starts in July of 22-23 rather than retroactively. So that's why you're seeing the co-curricular schedule. All of our coaches will get a 5.25% increase, as well as our staff that does yearbook, ASB, and all of that. The other one was the classified salary schedule will reduce the number of days for our secretaries. They're going to go from 210 to 205. And I think that was the only thing on that one. It's throwing me. But at least that's one of them. Let me look at the other one. I really don't remember, you guys. I'm so sorry. No, that wouldn't have been it. Oh, I think it was the, they also get a distasteful duty stipend, and that was at that stipend will be increased beginning the 22-23 school year as well. I think that's it.
Someone want to make a motion?
I would approve the salaries.
All in favor?
Aye.
11:10, additional workdays for superintendent.
Okay. Current employment agreement says that the superintendent is supposed to only work 225 days. The superintendent has worked more days than that in this year by 10 days. If the board so approves this, she can be paid for those 10 days.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 21-2217 regarding the education protection account.
Proposition 30 passed back in November of 2012, and when that proposition passed, we have to publicly come before the board and say what we are doing with that tax money that we do get from the state. We get about $166,000 a year, and we do spend all of that on instruction in the classroom.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 21-2218 delegation of authority.
This is just something that if the board does approve, because of timing and summer projects and how quick things need to be turned around, we can award bids and then come to the board after for ratification of that contract. But it does allow us to be able to award that bid and get the motions going for starting the work.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
This is a roll call vote. President Lopez Jones. Clerk Ralph Allen. Aye. Trustee Mansfield.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Aye.
Trustee Alderson. Resolution 21-2219 revised bank signatories.
You saw the same resolution last week. This resolution now adds our new vice principal that is starting over at the elementary school.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote. President Lopez Jones. Clerk Ralph Allen. Aye. Trustee Mansfield.
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Aye.
Trustee Alderson. 1114 engagement letter with Christy White and Associates.
Christy White and Associates is our auditor, and their 3-year term expired with this audit in 21-22, so we're looking to renew a contract for 3 years again with them. We work great with them. They are on top of everything that's going on at the state level, and their contract will increase by about $6,800 over the 3-year period.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Closing items, board meeting calendar, Monday, August 8th, 2022. Full new cast of players. 12.2, tentative future agenda items, the Williams quarterly report and Q4 investment report. No need to reconvene to closed session.
I move to adjourn.
Yes. Second.